All right, there we are. There we are. Let's make an adjustment. Ooh, there. No, wait. This way. This way. Why does it always look backwards? Okay, there we go. That's better. How's it going, guys? I made it a little bit late. Technical difficulties. Trying to get everything to run right. I just, it's when you just, the thing that makes it all, it's the crash, right? I had been at a certain pace um, since basically 6:30, right? I got home about 6:30, right? I got out of work at 5. I had an hour that I spent doing some shopping, because I had to hunt down an item or two across different stores in a town, and then 30 minutes to get home. So I got 90 minutes to 8, and I gotta eat, I gotta decompress, and I gotta deal with a handful of things that I didn't get done yesterday. So I didn't even really have a chance to put my head down for a minute, but I did have to, right? Because you go from where your energy is being dedicated to your contract agreement to your employer to your energy that is purely for yourself, right? And this is why I do the energy work the way that I do. This is why I don't leave the goddamn fucking house until I've done pranic breathing, yoga, qigong, and invocation. Okay? This is my every goddamn morning. And I really wish I had a better word than morning that, rolled off the tongue immediately, right? Because I try to change it up at work, right? Because there's Grand Rising, but okay, let's face it. Grand Rising is I love it. I mean, I got all the Leo energy to be all for it, right? And there's a lot of other people out there that say it, and I like it. I like it. I like Grand Rising a hell of a lot. James True likes to say good morning, and Thursday night I'm going live with James. Just letting you guys know he's coming on. We're gonna talk about the Mandela effect. I'm fucking excited. We're gonna go deep. It's I think with what James talks about and how we hallucinate our reality, which is all involved in technology belief. Oh, this is gonna be a fun conversation. I'm excited. Anyway, the prana economy, that's kind of part and parcel what I'm talking about. In fact, I was just overviewing prana economy a little bit for myself in general, which prana economy is not even going to be it's not even going to be. Who knows? Maybe it'll be incredibly in play. Just considering the energy we give to the world that we're in, right? And so, my prana goes into my dasein, and thus also depending on how much of my dasein is my dasein, right? This is why people complain about the time they spend working for another man, right? My life doesn't get any better because the flowers are healthy today at work, right? I get a paycheck, and then I get to make personal choices to make my life better with that money. And I get to make personal choices in my time that I am not earning that money. So this is why we're here, because we're talking about how our worlds work, right? Because I don't talk like a man who lives every effing day of his life in the mundane reality of a garden store. Although I show people, hey, here's my mundane reality in a garden store. But that's not my story. It's not my story. It's the only time that place like matters to my story is any human connection that is on my frequency. You know, I get to like a couple. One of the guys at work, he's from I think Honduras, Central America, and he's on point. I showed him Mud Fossil University. Oh, he's very interested. I showed him Archaics. He's very interested, right? English is a second language, Spanish speaking, right? This is Spanish world type of stuff. He's got his own theory. Like he thinks that the moon might be, he's, research, right? He's theory, just a theory, for whatever, that it's a petrified fruit. And he shows me a piece of fruit that's rotted, and the rotting has cratering that looks just like the lunar surface. And that's why I showed him Mud Fossil University, because his thinking was perfect for that, right? So I said, listen, that is, considering what I've researched, yeah, that's not the craziest thing I've ever fucking heard about the moon. Anyway, let's get into, here we go, right? Bang. All right. So, I'm trying to remember, we're here, it's, all right, the page opened to 65, right? But I don't recall precisely if 65 is where I want to be. Where is our selfhood, our aim? Okay, all right, I gotta make this smaller. There we go. Let's try this. Hold on. Oh, how small do I have to make you? All right. There we go. Okay. So this is 65. Let me just double check 64 real quick. Where are we at here? There we go. So that's care and selfhood. Did we do care and self? I remember doing hermeneutical situations. Hold on a second. Because there was a reason why we did it the way that we did it. All right, hold on a second. 358 to 364. That wasn't much. Yeah, that was like short. And then 64 to 70. I want to say care and self, but like I don't really want to get started and realize I read it already. So give me one moment. I'm going to have to do this in real time. I'm going to go into my channel and double check the last chapter I read. This will go fast. All right, let's see here. YouTube Studio. Come on. Alone. Content. Live. There we go. All right, there's all that nonsense. And the last Heidegger I did. All right. And where's the play? There. Almost there. Pointing the overlooking. Right. Self-constancy signifies nothing other than anticipatory resoluteness. The ontological structure. Such resolute. Darn it! Okay, that's right. In this stream, I flippin' forgot. I flippin' forgot to turn on the PDF when I came back from the intermission. So because I forgot to come back, I can't see the page I was at, but I can see the prior. Hold on, I can get this though, because I can see the prior thing before the intermission. And that'll tell me, okay, there's Greek that I was reading in there because I had to find my Greek. All right, all right. I'm looking at three. Okay, that was 367. Okay, I got a page. Therefore, I have a trajectory. Great. All right. I don't need that. 367. So I'm after. There's 317. Okay, so I'm way down. Oh no, no, 367 up there, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm looking at the wrong. See, there's two different pages on each page, which I think has something to do with the translation. So there's 365. There's 367. So then we are starting. We would have gone through 65, I think. We must have gone through 65. So I'm going to start us on 66. And if I missed 65, I'll do an addendum episode, and I'll put it in the proper order on the playlist later. Okay? Okay. Let's close that. Let's... whoops, not that way. Other way. There. All right. Am I framed properly? The analysis of... Yes! Okay. Congratulations. I can now actually start 20 minutes in. Dasein's temporality and the tasks arising therefrom of repeating the existential analysis in a more primordial manner. Not only does the phenomenon of temporality, which we have laid bare, demand a more widely ranging confirmation of its constitutive power, but only through such confirmation will it itself come into view as regards the basic possibility of temporalizing. The demonstration of the possibility of Dasein's state of being on the basis of temporality will be designated in brief, though only provisionally, as the temporal interpretation. Our next task is to go beyond the temporal analysis of Dasein's authentic potentiality for being a whole and a general characterization of the temporality of care so that Dasein's inauthenticity may be made visible in its own specific temporality. The temporality first showed itself in anticipatory resoluteness. This is the authentic mode of discloseness, though discloseness maintains itself for the most part in the inauthenticity with which the they fallingly interprets itself. Okay, so here he's getting into temporality in its spatial relationship from the self to the other, right? So let me read that again. Temporality first showed itself in anticipatory resoluteness. This is the authentic mode of disclosedness, though disclosedness maintains itself for the most part in the inauthenticity with which the they fallingly interprets itself. Okay, so that's very interesting. So temporality is becoming manifest in this anticipatory resoluteness, right? It's interesting. It's just like it's pre-resolve. It's I think a resolve is coming. It's right. He's trying to express the attitude of an energy in motion, right? You know, in ways that, like, since this has been done, it's easier for us to understand. This is the English that we had at the time of this translation for the German that Heidegger had at the time that he originally was authoring this, to explain all this crazy simulation matrix shit that we're going through. Temporality first showed itself in anticipatory resoluteness. This is the authentic mode of disclosedness, right? So so the authenticity is a little bit inauthentic, right? Because of its relationship to the existential and how the existential sways in influence. This is the back and forth of how you hold your posture, right? I talked about this when we first talked about this, right? So, the inauthenticity, right? If we are being honest with ourselves about all the times where, we wish my posture was more the anticipation of me clenching my fist to your face, right? But no. A great deal of society stands on the cunt side of things. I'm a baby, I'm worthless, I have no authority. And it, like 2020 was the ultimate, bringing into this kind of mindset. It was so through the looking glass of the unreal, of what you thought you were dealing with as a civilization since the early 2000s, that you realize that it didn't even have a rational correspondence to your imagination and dreams from the 90s. I mean, that's when I talk about the temporality and the anticipation of things, making your fucking like, you see how that works? The way we're tracking, and this energy that I'm talking about. You know that you have intuitively seen this now in hindsight, the breakdown, because our psychological relationship to this event is the reason why we reacted in this way to that event. And, and of course we're exposing the Hegelian dialectic of it all, which is a very important step in your liberation process, but it's an intellectual game at that point, right? Okay? If this is a Hellraiser series, imagine that sometime a long time ago, when you were young and stupid, you got yourself sucked into the hell dimension. You played with the cube, and you didn't know what the fuck it was. Now you're actually taking the cube seriously, because you realize the cube got you in, the cube gets you out. So you play with the cube until you open up the cube. All right? And then you opened up the cube, but then you didn't do anything with it, so you didn't realize you had the configuration proper to open the portal, right? The Hegelian dialectic reveal and the way you trace all of that in the system shows you exactly how to avoid it. The exposure ruins the game, right? Which is why they need fools to run amok upon the earth. Because it's not that hard for a wise man to avoid all this. And thus, someone like me walks the earth. In the characterizing the temporality of disclosedness in general, we are led to the temporal understanding of the concernful being in the world which lies closest to us, and therefore of the average undifferentiatedness of Dasein, from which the existential analytic first took its start. We have called Dasein's average kind of being, in which it maintains itself proximally and for the most part everydayness. By repeating the earlier analysis, we must reveal everydayness in its temporal meaning, so that the problematic included in the temporality may come to light, and the seemingly obvious character of the preparatory analysis may completely disappear. Indeed, confirmation is to be found for temporality in all the essential structures of Dasein's basic constitution. Yet this will not lead to running through our analysis again superficially and schematically in the same sequence of presentation. The course of our temporal analysis is directed otherwise. It is to make plainer the interconnection of our earlier considerations and to do away with whatever is accidental and seemingly arbitrary beyond these necessities of method. However, the phenomenon itself gives us motives which compel us to articulate our analysis in a different way when we repeat it. The ontological structure of that entity, which in each case I myself am, centers in the self-subsistent Selbstständigkeit of existence, because the self cannot be conceived either as substance or as subject, but is grounded in existence. Our analysis of the inauthentic self, the they, has been left wholly in tow of the preparatory interpretation of Dasein. Now that selfhood has been explicitly taken back into the structure of care, and therefore of temporality, the temporal interpretation of self-constancy and non-self-constancy. And here we have our first annotation. Selbstständigkeit und Unselbstständigkeit. Okay. All right, and that's it. All right, it didn't actually give it didn't actually get into any translational meanings, but anyway. But I read that pretty nice, though. My tongue is getting more German. Acquires an importance of its own. This interpretation needs to be carried through separately and thematically. However, it not only gives us the right kind of insurance against the I don't know why this one wants to paralogisms. Okay, I'm going to stop saying that word now. I hate it. And against ontologically inappropriate questions about the being of the I in general, but it provides at the same time, in accordance with its central function, a more primordial insight into the temporalization structure of temporality, which reveals itself as the historicality of Dasein. The proposition Dasein is historical is confirmed as a fundamental existential ontological assertion. This assertion is far removed from the mere ontical establishment of the fact that Dasein occurs in the world history, but the historicality of Dasein is the basis for a possible kind of historiological understanding, which in turn carries with it the possibility of getting a special grasp of the development of historiology as a science. By interpreting everydayness and historicality temporally, we shall get a steady enough view of primordial time to expose it as a condition which makes the everyday experience of time both possible and necessary. And let me quit that program. As an entity for which its being is an issue, Dasein utilizes its primarily for itself, verwendet sich für sich selbst. Whether it does so explicitly or not, proximally and for the most part, care is circumspective concern. In utilizing itself for the sake of itself, Dasein uses itself up. In using itself up, Dasein uses itself, that is to say, its time. Hang on. Let's read that one. Unwillen seines Selbst verwenden verbroch sich das Dasein, sich verrückend brach das Dasein sich selbst, das heißt sie seid. Here, three verbs, all of which might sometimes be translated as use, are contrasted rather subtly. Verwenden means literally to turn something away, but is often used in the sense of turning something to account, utilizing it. In a reflexive construction, such as we have here, it often takes on the more special meaning of applying oneself on someone's behalf. yeah, this all makes sense in the context and how we say it in our normal English vernacular, right? I'm using my time, etc., etc. I'm serving time, yada, yada, yada. In previous passages, we have generally translated verwenden as use. Verwokken means to consume or use up. Brauchen to means to use, but it also means to need, and it is hard to tell which of these senses Heidegger here has in mind. In using time, Dasein reckons with it. Time is first discovered in the concern which reckons circumspectively, and this concern leads to the development of a time reckoning. Reckoning with time is constitutive for being in the world. Concernful, circumspective discovering in reckoning with its time permits those things which we have discovered, and which are ready to hand or present at hand, to be encountered in time. Thus, entities within the world become accessible as being in time. We call the temporal attribute of entities within the world within timeness, die Innersichtkeit, the kind of time which is first found ontically in within timeness, becomes the basis on which the ordinary traditional conception of time takes form. But time as within timeness arises from an essential kind of temporalizing of primordial temporality. The fact that this is its source tells us that the time in which what is present at hand arises and passes away is a genuine phenomenon of time. It is not an externalization of a qualitative time into a space, as Bergson's interpretation of time, which is ontologically quite indefinite and inadequate, would have, would have us believe. In which out the temporality of Dasein, in working out the temporality of Dasein as everydayness, historicality, and within timeness, we shall be getting for the first time a relentless insight into the complications of a primordial ontology of Dasein. As being in the world, Dasein exists factically with and alongside entities which it encounters within the world. And of course, he uses the term entities, and we talked about entities where when he first brought it up, and when I think I think there was I think the first time the word entity popped up, it had an annotation like the one I read earlier, right? So entity here is contextually almost any kind of object making up your world. It's such a primordially animistic principle just by calling it an entity, right? Okay, so let's see here. World exists alongside entities. Okay, thus Dasein's being becomes ontologically transparent in a comprehensive way only within the horizon. Das Sein des Daseins empfangt daher umfassend ontologisch durchsichtigt erst in horizont in the older editions, erst appears after daher rather than after durchsichtigt. Horizon, in which the being of entities other than Dasein, and this means even of those which are neither ready to hand nor present at hand, but just subsist, has been clarified. I also find it interesting that the word horizont is the word for horizon in English that we know. And we know that horizon in English, and it would be for this entire language family, is also alluding to the hero and the Horus, right? And horizon is, we're talking about horizon conceptually. He's not talking about the literal horizon of the sky, right? He's talking about the emergence of something in Dasein, which you are talking about Horus, or Horus-like energy in that respect, right? And I don't think that that's at all what Heidegger is doing, but I am just saying that because the word horizon kind of stands out in what I am reading, the way, because it pops up in the annotation, and I think it's very interesting that it's the same thing, except it's got this T at the end. Simple little. It's almost like somebody said, "No, you're not allowed to be the same. You, scratch the T off. You don't get a T. He gets the T-wads. You don't get T-wads. You don't get the truth. The Germans get the truth." That's what it sounds like to me in my Norse brain. Where are we at? Wait, that's too far up, isn't it? All right, but if the variations of being are to be interpreted for everything of which we say it is, we need an idea of being in general. In which those of being the entities assign subsist. Yeah, I'm sorry, that was the right place. Okay, is, and we need to be a being in general, and this idea needs to have been adequately illumined in advance, so long as this idea is one at which we have not yet arrived, then the temporal analysis of Dasein, even if we repeat it, will remain incomplete and fraught with obscurities. We shall not go on to talk about the objective difficulties the existential temporal analysis of Dasein's demands, for its part that it be repeated anew within a framework in which the concept of being is discussed in principle. All right. And okay, great. That's the chapter. Cool. Nailed that in like 30 minutes or something. Oh, this is perfect. This is right where I wanted to take the first break anyway, and then we're going to do the next chapter for section and start section 4. So this will be fun. All right, so today we are listening to classic Demu with Stormblast. Broderskapetsring. pretty sure that this is the remaster of Stormblast. It's got such a righteous, it's got such a righteous sound, and it's a classic album with all sung in Norwegian. It's fucking great. I have on CD. I got the CD original remastered version, and it sounds it sounds so good in the remaster because like you forget like that it's from like way back in the 90s because it has like more of a Death Cult Armageddon cut to it in the remaster, and it just sounds great. All right. So let's get back on to the Heidegger. All right, here we are, part 4: temporality and everydayness. Oh, look at that. We got okay. So listen, I am not a YouTuber cat person, but I am a YouTuber currently cat sitting. Wait, where'd he go? Where'd he go? Okay, he's over there. I thought he was going to hang out over here. All right, so my buddy's cat, I'm watching him for a couple weeks, and so he may get all curious and whatnot. He's back there. Hold on a second. If I turn and I lean back, can you see? I don't know if you can see him. It's dark. But anyway, all right. Temporality and everydayness. The basic content of Dasein's existential constitution and a preliminary sketch of the temporal interpretation of it. Oh boy, this sounds like it's going to be a doozy. What are we in for here? How many pages is this going to be? All right, so this is 67, right? So 67 is 383, 380. Oh, okay, this one's 2 pages. Okay, so that's 2 pages. So then 60. Okay, 68 is a little bit beefier. What do we got here for 68? All right. Okay, you know what? We're going to read these 2 pages, and honestly, I don't want to have a big night tonight. I don't. I'm not going to go any further than this next chapter tonight, because this is a push. This is a push day, right? It's just like I'm tired. I'm pushing it, but I want to get this over with and start the next chapter of my YouTube channel. All right. Our preparatory analysis, does that have an annotation on it? Let me double check. Are we already here? No, we're not. Okay, there's no annotations on this page. Our preparatory analysis has made accessible a multiplicity of phenomena, and no matter how much we may concentrate on the foundational structural totality of care, these must not be allowed to vanish from our phenomenological purview. Far from excluding such a multiplicity, the primordial totality of Dasein's constitution as articulated demands it. The primordiality of a state of being does not coincide with the simplicity and uniqueness of an ultimate structural element. The ontological source of Dasein's being is not inferior to what springs from it, but towers above it in power from the outset. Wow, that's very, very colorful poetic language there. In the field of ontology, any springing from is degeneration. If we penetrate to the source ontologically, we do not come to things which are ontically obvious for the common understanding, but the questionable character of everything obvious opens up for us. If we are to bring back into our phenomenological purview the phenomena at which we have arrived in our preparatory analysis, an allusion to the stages through which we have passed must be sufficient. Our definition of care emerged from the analysis of the discloseness which constitutes the being of the there. The clarification of this phenomena signified that we must give a provisional interpretation of being in the world, the basic state of Dasein. Our investigation set out to describe being in the world so that from the beginning we could secure an adequate phenomenological horizon as opposed to those inappropriate and mostly inexplicit ways in which the nature of Dasein has been determined beforehand ontologically. Being in the world was first characterized with regard to the phenomenon of the world, and in our explication this was done by characterizing ontologically what is ready to hand and what is ready to hand and present at hand in the environment, and then bringing within the worldness into relief, so that by this the phenomenon of worldhood in general could be made visible. But understanding belongs essentially to discloseness and the structure of worldhood. Significance turned out to be bound up with that upon which understanding projects itself, namely that potentiality for being for the sake of which Dasein exists. Temporal interpretation of everyday Dasein must start with those structures in which discloseness constitutes itself. Understanding state of mind, falling in discourse, the modes in which temporality temporalizes are to be laid bare with regard to these phenomena, and will give us a basis for defining the temporality of being in the world. This leads us back to the phenomenon of the world and permits us to delimit the specifically temporal problematic of worldhood. I turned my head. I said worldhood in case you didn't hear it. Problematic of worldhood. This must be confirmed by characterizing that kind of being in the world which in an everyday manner is closest to us. Circumspective, falling concern, the temporality of this concern makes it possible for circumspection to be modified into a perceiving which looks at things, and the theoretical cognition which is grounded in such perceiving. The temporality of being in the world thus emerges, and it turns out at the same time to be the foundation for that spatiality which is specific for Dasein. We must also show the temporal constitution of disseverance and directionality. Taken as a whole, these analyses will reveal a possibility oh darn, where'd it go? A possibility. Oh my god. Okay. For the temporalizing of temporality, in which Dasein in authenticity is ontologically grounded, and they will lead us face to face with the question of how the temporal character of everydayness, the temporal meaning of the phrase proximally, and for the most part, which we have been using constantly hitherto, is to be understood. By fixing upon the problem, we shall have made it plain that the clarification of this phenomena which we have so far attained is insufficient, and we shall have shown the extent of this insufficiency. The present chapter is thus divided up as follows: the temporality of discloseness in general, the temporality of being in the world, and the problem of transcendence. The temporality of the spatiality characteristic of Dasein, the temporal meaning of Dasein's everydayness. All right, break. Excellent. There we go. We're done. We'll be doing 68 next time. Whenever I figure out when next time is, I'll be setting up my things once I am done. I'll be setting up... I got 2 live streams I'm going to set up. One will be kind of a surprise stream. It'll get titled later. and then of course the James True thing I'm gonna do pretty much right now. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Well, it looks like I had four views or whatever. If anybody wants to say good night, now's your chance to say good night because I do not feel like being a rambling man right now, and I will hit the button. I'll do it. I swear. I'm a madman. It's Mystery Science Theater. Hit the button, Frank. You know, I couldn't effing find it. James was sharing on one of the things that he's a Misty. I'm like, oh my god, James is a Misty, and it's just like I didn't have a chance to tell him. So it's like, James, I'm a Misty, and I've got like one or two box sets from one of the seasons on DVD. And I used to follow Mystery Science Theater's Theta channel. Back when all of the censorship was on and there were 20 million streaming services that everybody was looking for somewhere to belong on. Theta, one of these game stream services, which I followed the Phoenix Enigma to. I found out that Mystery Science Theater had like a channel running there, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I'm going to sub to that." And every once in a while, I'd hang out. I'd be doing something else, and I'd watch Mystery Science Theater while it's going on, and get a classic. See if there's any. People didn't really seem to chat much in the chat room. They were just all kind of there. So is what it is. But man, I think I've seen it all. I've seen all of that stuff. I've seen a bunch of cinematic Titanic. Yeah, man, I really was a junkie for that. I loved it. I think, yeah, and I think I'm a Mike Nelson guy, to be honest. I think I like Nelson. I love Joel, but Mike Nelson, as far as being like a charismatic character, I think his personality was awesome. Anyway, I will catch you guys later.